So we just have to, break down the stigma and be more willing to have these conversations more often so that the people can get the help that they need.
The stigma is important. And to get that buy-in from the ministers is going to be very important, especially depending on the dynamics. We have the seniors, the elderly population who didn't believe in taking care of mental health, or that was something that we need to be talking about. Different cultures. What happens in this house stays in this house. But everyone now is beginning to have more buy-in. And I think that's because culturally, we're seeing more of our young people having more buy-in about their mental wellness. And with everything that's going on in society, if spiritually we do not get in touch, we're going to be lost. So we see everything going on with the shootings in the school systems and everything else. So it is having an impact in the religious setting as well as everywhere else. So that's why I think we're seeing more buy-in from pastors and ministers as well now.
Okay, some great points. One of the things that I had highlighted in my notes that I did not bring up, there were people who told me a couple of years back that I would be in ministry, and I would laugh because I'm like, yeah, I'm far from a minister. But then when I thought about it, mental health in itself is a type of ministry because not everybody can do mental health. Everybody is not built to handle people with mental illness. So I was able to take it and say, okay, yeah, that's my ministry. But then in addition to, we have to realize, as you said about the pastors and the church hurt and things of that nature, we have to realize that people have soul wounds. And because of these soul wounds, they are coming to their pastors or to the leadership in the church for additional assistance to assist with the soul wounds. And if the pastors don't handle it appropriately, then that has added an additional layer of scarring as well. And so instead of leaving a bitter taste in the people's mouth, we want to be better equipped to deal with whatever they bring in the church house, in the schoolhouse, in the office, whatever it is, wherever we encounter people, we want to be able to say, how can I assist you? Even when we don't necessarily want to assist, we can give them the resources to say, hey, these people might be able to help you. Even, if I can, let me redirect you to somewhere that can. But we have to realize that the soul wounds are caused by sin and trauma, and everybody has sinned, whether they want to admit it or not. We were born in a sinful nature. So that is just something that, we were granted at birth. Yeah, we can try to perfect it on a daily basis, but we don't always
be able to approach each other to say, hey, Sister D, you offended me when you said, and being tactful with it. That's going to help reduce some of the church hurt that we see and help people heal so that they can deal.
I agree.
Yeah. Jesus said that I have come to heal the sick, or to minister to the sick. And I think we have to keep remembering that. I like what Shannon said about forgiveness, that the forgiveness is not only to forgive that person, release their power, but it's also for us. It does more for us to forgive in a lot of ways, which a lot of times we don't recognize. And I had an interesting situation that I never thought I'd ever have just last week. And it's when you get some of this stuff to happen, it's like, how do you handle the little waves that come from it? I mean, like when you drop a rock in the water and you have these waves and they keep going all the way out in the distance. last week I had a little boy who opened, and our students are not supposed to open the doors, because of a school shooting. Everybody's supposed to go through one central way. Mm-hmm. And the child opened the door for grandmother, which is a very good gesture. That's what you want a child to do. You want them to be kind and do that. And the weather was not the best, so it was raining. So, he really did a good thing. One of our teachers freaked out and was like, he opened the door. He's not, she's now loose in the building. And she was all upset. And I, talked to her and said, I'll handle it. And then, the grandmother had gone down to the office, which is where she was supposed to go. She was going to get her own child out. But I didn't have to, but I felt like that was a good teaching moment with that young man to sit there and explain to him, what you did was a great idea. I want you to be kind. But at this point, we also have to worry about your safety and the safety of everybody else here. Mm-hmm. So at this point, will you let adults worry about the door, please? And I said, don't even open the door to talk to them, but just tell them to go to the front office, please. And that's something that we don't always think about either, how those little things impact everywhere. Mm-hmm. Our children and stuff like that.
It's true. That is true.
About a little girl up in, it was Lindley Middle School, I believe, where she took a gun to school and she shot herself in front of her classroom. Luckily, once I completed the article, she did not kill herself. But she did injure herself, and she was in critical condition. And my heart ached for that family. What I have learned by working in the mental health field all the years that I did was that sometimes if you just simply ask someone can make the biggest difference ever. A lot of suicides can be prevented by simply asking that question. Are you okay? You will be surprised. I've been in grocery stores, Walmart, Publix, Food Lion, Harvey's, and if I walk by somebody, and I guess it's just in me now, it's ingrained in me, so I can't help but if I see someone that looks downtrodden, I'll speak to them and I'll ask, how are you today? And sometimes it's a complete stranger and they'll just ramble and tell me about how their day was. And if they spark up that conversation, it doesn't matter what I have going on. I stop and I listen to what they have to say because they may have been waiting for someone to ask that question all day long and no one did. So because I took that time, I feel like although I'm not directly in the mental health field anymore, I still feel like I try to be one of the biggest mental health advocates, and I tell people, if you experience anything, no matter how minute or mediocre you might feel, it might have been to, if nothing else, just to get off your chest and to have an unbiased source just listen to you, then you do that. You do whatever it is that you need to do in order to be free of whatever it is that you're dealing with. And I just wondered with that shooting earlier, I was like, not only was a child able to get the gun in the school, but I'm wondering, like, how many times were the signs missed? Mm-hmm. Like, what? Because there's always a cry for help. In some shape, form, or fashion, there's always something where maybe that child might have been isolating, be it at school or at home. Their grades may have been A's and B's, and then their grades start to decrease. Like, there's always some little inkling that something is going on, that someone may need to intervene. So active listening, what I have learned, is one of the biggest things that has helped me be a better person, a better conversationalist, and just been able to help more people because, like I said, they just need that, just a little tug, just for that information. How are you today? I feel like if someone had asked that child how she was, that could have derailed how she was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's definitely needed in our school systems. I know that our kids are going through, I think they're going through a lot of what we went through coming up, but the technology is what's the difference.
Right.
I didn't get my first cell phone until I think I was a senior in high school. But they have access to it now. The parents are buying it. It's actually a need for it, especially when they're involved in extracurricular activities. I think our parents need to check our children's phones more often than they do. You will be surprised at some of the things that you will find out. A dear friend of mine was able to find out by one of her child's friends that her daughter was having some suicidal thoughts. That because that child, it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary for our parents to pay attention to those signs and the nonverbal gestures that are being communicated, because although it's nonverbal, it is definitely still a form of communication. So it's just simply paying attention to the signs of, mood swings and different, like I said, the grades changing or them starting to lie and, and sneak around and things like that. Like it always builds. Like our Bible tells us, warning comes before destruction. There's always warnings and signs before there's an explosion.
That is true. I can definitely agree with everything that also falls up under that PTSD. So in fixing the parents, they become better parents in order to have a better outcome as far as their children. Once we can tweak the household with the adults, then we can learn how to tweak the household with the children. Does anybody have any additional thoughts on that or want to elaborate on that?
I definitely concur. After working in the juvenile justice system for approximately 10 years, I definitely saw the need to involve the entire family, because if we do not touch the entire family, we're not doing the children any service when we're sending them back to the same environment, as well as from, working in the school system. We're not helping the family at all to learn how to change these negative and maladaptive behaviors by just working with the children. It has to be a holistic approach. It has to be the entire family.
To account and get on top of, and that way that can reduce and eliminate an additional mental health issue for one or a couple of people, because that keeps them out the line of that predator. That they would like to add to the conversation.
I can, Dr. Demetria.
Okay.
I just wanted to touch base just briefly on some of the resources that we have in the community. I think some of our people, and I'm saying our people because to me, all people are our people. Okay. I think that some of our people suffer because they don't know the resources that are readily available to them in our community. So, of course, back in 2013, Southwestern closed, but we do have some facilities here locally And I just wanted to just go over it. I just wanted to list and make sure that everyone knows. And I'll say the addresses and the names and their phone numbers a little slowly, just so you guys will have them. You mentioned, Dr. D, about texting the 988.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a 1-800 number for the Georgia Crisis and Access Line, also referred to as GCAL. And that phone number is 800-715-4225. If you are having an episode and you feel like you need someone to come out to your home, if you call GCAL, they can dispatch a mobile crisis team to come to the address where you are to complete an assessment, and they will help you decide, if you need to go further to the crisis center, or if you have to go to the ER. If you have some substance abuse, they may recommend that you go to the ER. If your heart rate or blood pressure is elevated, they will send you to the ER to be stabilized first. And then they'll refer you to either go to the crisis center, which is located at 525 Cassidy Road. Their phone number is 229-225-3917, or they'll refer you to go to Archbold Northside, and their address is 401 Albany Road. We also have the Georgia Pines Community Service Board, which is where outpatient therapy in a clinic is. And they're now located, they were on Smith Avenue, but they moved. And they're located out on Southwestern's old campus in the regional office. And that address is 400 South Pine Tree Boulevard. Their phone number is 229-225-5208. And I also have phone numbers for the Phoenix, which is a substance abuse facility here in Thomasville. As we spoke on earlier, some people suffer with mental health and substance abuse issues. Sometimes instead of them taking the prescription medication, they want to self-medicate. And a part of some of their self-medication that involves drugs or foreign objects that may cause them bodily harm, which doesn't help their situation. It further fuels it and sometimes makes it 10 times worse than what it would have been. And the Phoenix 5223, I believe they moved. They were on Southwestern campus. But when I pulled it up, their address was now showing 136 Oakwood Trace. So maybe they relocated as well. And then the last facility that I have the phone number for is Greenleaf. Greenleaf is a mental health facility that is located in Valdosta, which is about 45 minutes from Thomasville. And they're located at 2209 Pineview Drive in Valdosta. And their phone number is 229-506-7977.
I was going to say that I think it's important for us, all of us who are dealing with mental health, to remember that we suffer from, secondary trauma, and that we have to take care of ourselves because we're reaching out for it's like, if I have this, I've been drinking out of this cup. If I keep drinking out of this cup, and I don't put anything in it, I'm going to be empty and I don't have anything else left to give to somebody else. And that's why, to me, God's real important. As you were saying, Shannon, the prayer life, reading in the Word of God, that helps give us stuff to give to others. But we also have to remember, too, some of us have heard or seen, or experienced ourselves some stuff with our children or our clients. That and it's sort of a secondary trauma, wouldn't you say, Dr. D? And that we need to,
anybody in the helping fields will experience that secondary trauma. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I know that's exactly what I wanted to say. As a therapist or a healthcare provider, anybody that provides any kind of uh, care or ministry like this. You remember when Jesus had fed the multitudes, he went away and he had to be refreshed. And, I believe, and that was one of the two things I was going to say, Bunny, about how, professionals and pastors need therapists. Out of the trauma that they incur from those people that y'all say have church hurt, they bring, they get trauma too. And I believe that, they need, training and therapy as well. And I'm glad I'm an advocate for mental health as far as, the ministry is concerned. It goes hand in hand. Because, if a person is not, mentally fit, it's going to have something to do with the other facets of life as well. And the other thing that I want to mention to you ladies, when people, when we, in education, I know before we can put a child in special ed, we had to assess them. Many times, people come to church and they're not assessed. They don't have evaluations when they come in there. They hand the pastor say, "Oh, I'm dealing with this, and this, and this." And a good pastor, after you've prayed, and Shannon can tell you this because she's a member of my church. A good pastor the Bible says, you have to know those that labor among you. That may not be, I may not be a therapist or someone that works strongly in mental health, but I got some people around me that do. And I most definitely use them and try to push my congregants towards having mental health, because if you're healthy mentally, you can be healthy spiritually. And especially in the African American church, we tend to spiritualize things and just pray about it, put some oil on it, and you'll be fine. But God gave us physicians and professionals for a reason, and medicine for a reason. And so, ladies, tonight I've heard some wonderful testimonies, as well as some strategies to use. And that was the purpose of this meeting tonight, is to get you ladies and professionals together to do that. And you all have done a wonderful job.
But just to close out, I know I touched briefly a few minutes ago on soul wounds, and this is part of the information that I was looking when I read that, but it was in two different locations. Soul wounds are caused by sin and trauma, most often in childhood, and the wounds can come in the form of hurt, disappointment, molestation, abuse, and abandonment, anger, resentment, bitterness, hatred, and unforgiveness, with unforgiveness being the biggest soul wound. So, Miss Bonnie, what you said about the forgiveness, that is a huge piece to release ourselves and our souls that can break the bondage that we may have had on anything. And then, but if we don't release these soul wounds, then it turns into mental health and physical health issues and disorders. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. One thing I remember in a Bible study a few years ago, and we were discussing the immune system, and it said that God created the immune system to maintain the body. He created the body to be able to fight invaders. The spiritual enemy wants to destroy your immune system, which is your marrow. Your blood has the origin in its marrow. The TT cells, the macrophages, the killer cells, the red and the white corpuscles are found in the marrow. And then some ways that Satan tries to access your marrow is through your thoughts. He wants to make his spirituality your spirituality, get you to follow the law of sin, create relationships, breakups, stir up strife, promote conflict, promote inappropriate reactions, initiate verbal, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, and speak to you in the first person as though it were your own thoughts, so that you don't realize that they are thoughts from the enemy. So that was very important to me the first time that I heard it, and it stuck with me ever since then.